I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's webcast. It's April the 23rd and Friday. Gary Stearman is here to discuss with me what's going on around the world.
Well, J.R., what's going on around the world is growing apostasy, and I know that your first news cut is just amazing. I don't think that the news that J.R. is about to relate to us could have happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Things have rapidly changed more and more to an anti-Christian position in this country.
Dr. Billy Graham has been the pastor of almost every president since the 1950s. In the Eisenhower days, he has been the premier Christian who has stood up for right and righteousness across America. He's preached the second coming of Christ. Billy Graham has preached to millions upon millions of people by way of television and vast arenas filled with the great evangelistic outreaches of Billy Graham. And his son, who took over the ministry upon his retirement, Franklin Graham, made a statement in the days following 9/11. He said that Islam is evil. I believe that. I believe it to the core. All you have to do is read the Quran. Anybody with any intelligence that knows how to read English can go on the internet and read an English Quran.
Now, this is interesting to me because when I first read this news clip, I was amazed that it reaches back so far into our history. Just following 9/11, when the emotions of America were very high and when national pride was at a zenith, Franklin Graham stood up, I think, with moral courage, spiritual courage, and made this statement. And now, something that happened years ago is being dragged up in order to impugn his name, and the way it happened is astonishing.
Listen to this. The Army disinvites Graham to Pentagon Prayer Day. Evangelist Franklin Graham's invitation to speak at a Pentagon prayer service has been rescinded because of his comments about Islam were inappropriate, the Army said Thursday. You don't know what you're doing. All of you in the Pentagon, listen to me. You poke a finger in God's eye and God will react. He won't let you get away with it. What in the world is it going to cost our Army for doing this to God's man? You don't touch God's anointed, you understand? This is, I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm getting angry. In the spirit, of course.
J.R. is starting to preach here, and I don't blame him. This is something that will make you angry. J.R., in recent years, the American military has made a policy of incorporating various religions, New Age religion, Wicca, various non-Christian religions. Now it has welcomed Islam into its ranks and has risen against Franklin Graham. This is astonishing.
When you put down Christianity, I don't care how you do it. If you say, well, we don't want to offend Islam, or we don't want to offend the Wiccas, or we don't want to offend this group or that group or another group. No, what you're really doing is you're offending Christians. You're offending Christianity. You're offending the New Testament of this Bible right here. You're offending every person who's ever been born again down through the centuries for 2,000 years. You've offended Christ, the one who died to give you eternal life. You've offended him. You haven't just offended Franklin Graham. And let me tell you something. God, who sent the ash from Iceland across the British for offending Israel, tourism industry, and it cost the British 1 million tourists stranded in Europe and across the world. It cost them $1 billion, some say $2 billion. Listen, God knows how to extract an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And since it was the Army who offended God by rescinding the invitation to one of God's preachers, one of the great preachers of our generation, God won't let you get away with it. Hate to tell you that. That's the way it is.
Well, J.R., I'd like to sort of add perspective to what you're talking about here, because I think the impetus from this incident with Franklin Graham comes from our executive branch. Our own president, who has taken an anti-Israel stance with increasing clarity as days gone by.
Now it's an anti-Christian stance.
And now it's become anti-Christian. And this is very frightening development because the Lord is going to have to remove his blessing from this land at one point or another.
So he's offended the Jews, he's offended the Christians. He will not offend the Muslims because he is one.
But JR, there are still believers here in America. And here's a little news note from the Jewish Voice, the April 2010 issue, and its headline, "Bibi Gets Flowers from Americans Embarrassed by Obama's Anti-Israel Policies." On Sunday, April 11th, thousands of Christian Americans sent Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu close to 16,000 yellow roses, symbols of affection, friendship, and public national embarrassment at the way he, and by extension, the Jewish state, have been mistreated by the Obama administration, especially the colossal display of humiliating bad manners displayed by Mr. Obama himself when Mr. Netanyahu visited the White House for a discussion on Israeli residential building in Jerusalem. Now, JR, my heart is warmed by the fact that there's this outpouring of love for Bibi and for modern Israel.
That amazes me. You'd think, he'd learn his lesson. Somebody would clue him in. There's Rahm Emanuel, has the ear of the president. His father was a member of the Israeli underground. But no. Here's another article. It says, Obama administration angered by Jerusalem commercials. Senior members of President Barack Obama's administration expressed frustration and anger to Haaretz, that's an Israeli newspaper, over a new series of television commercials airing in the U.S. that support Israel's outright claim to a unified Jerusalem. The first commercial aired this week and featured famed author, Nobel Peace Prize laureate, and Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel, who told viewers that for him as a Jew, Jerusalem is above politics. I agree, it ought to be. Jerusalem is above politics. In the commercial, Wiesel goes on to point out that Jerusalem is mentioned more than 600 times in the Bible, but not a single time in the Quran. And this just got all over the president. It just, all kinds of contortions, Tensions between Netanyahu and Obama have reached new heights and so on. Well, I wonder, what's that going to cost us? Because, we pay every time they make some stupid statement like that out of the White House.
Absolutely, and we've interviewed a couple of authors who have documented this in some of the books that we've offered. But that's another story. We have just a couple of minutes left, and I want to tell you that today the staff here at Prophecy of the News gathered right here in the studio to pray for JR's health. And we lifted him up before the Lord for healing by faith, and we believe that the Lord is going to bless him and heal him. That is something that we believe fervently, that as a long-time servant of the Lord, JR is going to reap the blessings attendant to his service. And JR, we covet the prayers of all our friends here at Prophecy in the News.
I appreciate your prayers. When this broadcast stops, take a few moments to pray for me, will you? I must tell you that this coming Monday, I finally cleared my mind and am submitting to chemotherapy. I'm going to continue to do the other things that I'm doing. I'm going to continue to pray. But, it'll give peace of mind to a lot of people to know that we've added this chemo. Well, I don't know what it's going to do to me in the next 8 weeks, but you be praying for me because I need your prayers now more than ever before. Thank you so much. I'm J.R. Church. Thanks for watching today. Gary Stearman. We'll see you again Monday with our analysis of the news.